Let's get into something really unsettling today. Think about reality itself getting corrupted, not like a big explosion, but this slow creeping rot, right?
Like a stain spreading.
Exactly. Starts like this tiny ooze, barely there, but it grows into this devouring torrent. That's how the veil of unmaking gets described.
Wow.
Yeah, and one description is just chilling. It calls it a kind of sizzling celestial syphilis. Taints everything. It really gets you thinking, doesn't it?
Definitely. Like, could this be the hidden thread? The thing connecting all these local horror stories that seem totally separate on the surface?
That's the core question for this deep dive. Instead of random nightmares, maybe they're symptoms of the same fundamental sickness.
A sickness catalyzed by this veil of unmaking. It's a fascinating framework.
Because we've been looking at two, really disturbing cases. And when you start digging, the connections or potential connections, they start to pop out.
Okay, so what are the two cases?
First up, BESTIA of Lakeland. The city built on cursed land, sacred Native American land.
Right, the settlers. Greed and bloodshed, breaking some kind of ancient protection.
Precisely. And the result? Every 13 years, blue supermoon. Werewolves.
But not just random people turning.
No, that's the thing. It's the descendants.
Yeah.
Descendants of those original settlers. And they get pulled back. Literally compelled to return to Lakeland, doesn't matter where they are.
Pulled back? How?
Like, we have accounts. Valeria, stationed in Kuwait, just wakes up one morning back in her childhood bedroom in the Lakeland. Ronan feels this sudden, overwhelming need to go there. This time, there are 9 of them caught in the cycle.
9 descendants.
Yeah, and each one is dragging secrets behind them, trying to outrun their family history. But nope, the city pulls them back, it feels like. Like it's more than just revenge,
Yeah. The sources hint at something older, don't they? Something ancient and ravenous underneath the city.
That's the word. Ancient and ravenous.
And that compulsion aspect you mentioned, the inescapable pull, that really highlights the power involved here. It's not psychological, it's fundamental. Like it's in their blood.
Absolutely. And then there's the cover-up.
The cover-up.
Yeah, how the outside world just dismisses it all. Hysteria, riots, maybe a weird natural disaster. Apparently helped along by some shady group called the Silhouette.
So there's an active effort to keep it hidden, to normalize these horrific events.
Seems like it. Which makes you wonder, what are they hiding? Is it just werewolves, or is what the werewolves are keeping down?
That's a chilling thought. The idea that the land itself is just permanently scarred, and these transformations are echoes of that original sin.
Right. It's not over. It repeats. Generation after generation gets sucked back in. It really makes you think about the weight of the past.
And maybe the werewolves aren't even the main event.
That's the growing theory, that they're like a symptom, maybe even a kind of seal, holding back something far worse.
A seal.
Yeah.
Wow. So the curse isn't just punishment, it's also containment. A messy, horrifying form of containment.
Could be. Which means the return of these 9 descendants. It feels like a convergence. Maybe the seal is weakening. Or maybe they're finally meant to face whatever's really down there.
Okay, so that's Lakeland. What's the second case?
The Scarecrow of Wyrmwood Orchard, over in Glenvale. Forget pumpkin patches. This place is grim.
Wyrmwood Orchard. I've heard whispers. What's the story?
It starts with immense tragedy. A man enslaved, a husband and father trying to get his family to freedom. He sacrifices himself, gets caught.
Oh, no.
And the cruelty. It's almost unbelievable. Beaten, whipped, hands and feet hacked off.
God.
Then crucified. In the orchard, mouth sewn shut so he couldn't even cry out properly. He hung there for 13 days.
13 days.
Yeah, just moaning, eventually just begging for death, but silenced. And in that agony, something answered. Something from below.
Something from below, like the ancient and ravenous in Lakeland.
Maybe. The sources talk about things that slither, a darkness that isn't the darkness. They whispered to him, promised him power, vengeance, and end of the pain.
And after 13 days of that torture.
He resisted for 12 nights. But on the 13th, he gave in, surrendered. They say his soul was just, swallowed by the black earth. And something new was born, the Scarecrow.
So it wasn't just his spirit seeking revenge, it was infused with something else, something from the earth.
Seems that way. A year later, anniversary of his death, the body's gone from the cross. That night, the master's mansion becomes a slaughterhouse.
The first reaping.
Exactly. And a message left behind in blood on the walls. A poem about crows, counting them up, ending with, all will be judged.
Chilling, written in blood.
And there was a witness, a young boy, So the whole thing, he described this hulking shape, tattered burlap, smelling of rotten sulfur, and it rasped at him, run.
Sulfur, that points to something demonic or at least otherworldly.
Right. Then the whole plantation just goes up in flames, but not normal flames. This weird green spirit fire, and the land itself, cursed.
Ah, so.
Twisted trees, fruit that grows black and literally bleeds. The ground oozes this black ichor, and sometimes you can supposedly hear screams coming from the earth itself.
So the land is intrinsically linked to the entity, like Lakeland, but maybe even more directly.
Yeah, it feels like it is the entity's domain. And the Scarecrow Curse, it's still active. It hunts.
Hunts who?
The wicked, the cruel, anyone who spills innocent blood unjustly. And there's this strong belief it specifically goes after the descendants of the people who wronged the original man.
Another generational curse.
Exactly. And it seems almost impossible to destroy. It's tied to the land, the crows are always around it, and even the apples from the orchard are said to hold some dark power.
Okay, wow. So Lakeland's werewolves, Wyrmwood's scarecrow, both brutal, both tied to land, both involving descendants, and some kind of ancient influence.
Right, which brings us back to the veil of unmaking. Could this be the common factor?
Let's explore that. The veil, as described, doesn't create, it corrupts, right? It seeps in.
Yeah, origins are murky, drowned souls, void entities, who knows? But the core idea is taint. It infects reality. Land, water, people, often through whispers, promises of power.
Like the whispers the slave heard.
Exactly. Could those things that slither have been agents, or maybe just manifestations of the veil, offering a deal?
And in Lakeland, that primal darkness the settlers disturbed, could that be a place where the veil is particularly strong? Or maybe even breaking through?
It fits, doesn't it? The ancient magic meant to seal the evil there. Maybe it was a defense against the veil's influence in that specific spot.
And the persistence of both curses that feels less like ghosts and more like a fundamental corruption of the area's reality, which is exactly what the veil is supposed to do.
The shared themes are undeniable, aren't they? Lingering evil, generational consequences, transformations driven by dark pacts or influences, the land itself turning foul.
It makes you look at the details differently, like the blue supermoon in Lakeland. Is that a time when the veil, this barrier between worlds or realities, thins out?
Allowing the corruption to surge, triggering the transformations. Makes sense.
And Wyrmwood? Did the sheer trauma and injustice of the slave's death literally tear a hole, creating a weak spot for the veil to manifest and birth the scarecrow, twisting his agony into this vengeful entity?
Could that green spirit fire be like visible evidence of the veil's energy, an unnatural fire consuming the old world?
These are the connections that start to feel less like coincidence and more like a pattern.
And what about the descendants in Lakeland being forced to return? Why? Are they just puppets for the curse? Or is their bloodline somehow key to whatever the veil wants there?
Are they fuel? Are they anchors? Or are they meant to fight it? We don't know.
And the scarecrow sparing younger kids, under 15. Is that a leftover scrap of the man he was? Or does the corrupting force behind it just have no use for innocence?
It could be either. A shred of humanity or just the specific nature of that particular corruption. It raises so many questions about the consciousness, if any, behind the veil.
So wrapping this part up, we have these two distinct horrors. Lakeland. Cyclical werewolf transformations tied to desecrated land, and maybe something much older. Wyrmwood. A vengeful, near-immortal scarecrow born from torture and an otherworldly pact tied intrinsically to its blighted orchard.
Two separate nightmares.
Or maybe not so separate. Maybe they're just different faces of the same underlying problem. Different eruptions from this veil of unmaking. This cosmic sickness slowly poisoning reality.
It's a deeply unsettling thought. If these localized, potent curses are just symptoms, what else is out there?
Right. If Bestia and the Scarecrow are just two examples of the veil's influence made manifest, how many other hidden horrors are festering? In places we don't look, waiting for their own trigger.
What other unseen forces might be subtly twisting our world, whispering promises in the static, their corrupting influence spreading unnoticed until it's too late?
It definitely gives you something to think about. The idea that the monsters we know might just be the tip of a truly terrifying iceberg.